A powerful judge stands up during a live press conference and calls the president a fraud. Millions are watching, jaws drop, but within minutes, the judge is the one in handcuffs. What just happened? You won't believe how this backfired. It was supposed to be just another speech. The Grand Hall of the National Assembly building was packed. Reporters buzzed with curiosity. Lights from news cameras flickered across the marble floors, and a low murmur of anticipation filled the air. The president was scheduled to address the nation about a bold new anti-corruption plan that promised to shake the very foundations of the country's justice system. People have been waiting for this moment. Rumors of sweeping reforms and upcoming investigations had dominated headlines for weeks. There were whispers that several big names might fall, but nobody expected what was about to happen. At exactly 11 a.m., the president walked onto the stage. Dressed in a crisp navy suit and flanked by national flags, he exuded confidence. He approached the podium slowly, paused, and looked out across the hall, then into the cameras broadcasting live to millions of viewers. Today, he began, "We take a stand against those who have corrupted justice, a stand against those who believe they are above the law." Applause echoed briefly, but then, just as he was about to continue, it happened. From the audience, a voice thundered, loud and sharp. "And what about you, Mr. President? How dare you talk about justice when your own hands are dripping with corruption?" Every head in the room turned. A man stood from the third row, tall, gray-haired, and in full judicial robes. It was Judge Harold Benson, a name everyone in the country knew, one of the most respected and feared judges in the entire judiciary. Known for his sharp tongue, ruthless rulings, and iron grip over courtroom proceedings, Benson was a symbol of authority in the legal world. Some praised him for being firm. Others whispered of secrets, of cases that mysteriously disappeared, of verdicts that didn't make sense. And now he was standing in the middle of a live national broadcast, pointing a finger at the president. Gasps filled the room. Camera crews zoomed in. Reporters scrambled for their phones. The judge wasn't done. "Don't play hero for the cameras," he said, voice booming. "You've sat in silence while your friends looted the country. You think passing new laws can erase the past. Your past." You could feel the tension. People held their breath. Some looked toward the security guards, others toward the president, wondering how he would react. Was the president being exposed? Was there truth to the judge's claims? The president didn't move. No anger, no panic, just silence, and then the faintest smile. "Judge Benson," the president said calmly, "are you sure you want to go through with this? On live television?" The judge seemed unfazed. "I'm not afraid of you." The president slowly turned to one of his aides and nodded. There was a brief moment of confusion, and then, out of nowhere, the large LED screen behind the podium flickered on. A hush fell over the room as the national emblem disappeared and a video began to play. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's stay in this moment, the one that had millions on the edge of their seats. Social media feeds flooded with clips of Judge Benson's outburst. News stations cut away from regular coverage to focus entirely on the scene. Pundits began debating in real time. Was this the beginning of a major political scandal? Was the president hiding something? But for those who were really watching, those who noticed the president's calm, the quiet nod to his aide, the choice to let Judge Benson speak, they sensed something was coming. Something big. And behind the scenes, insiders knew this moment had been anticipated. You see, what Judge Benson didn't know was that he had already been under investigation. Quietly, carefully, for months. The president's anti-corruption initiative wasn't just for show. A secret task force had been formed, led by independent prosecutors and intelligence officials, and Judge Harold Benson had been at the top of their list. They had waited, watched, collected evidence, but they never expected him to walk right into the spotlight and accuse the president on live television. This wasn't a political trap. It wasn't a coincidence. This was something more poetic. The judge had attempted to embarrass the president in front of the nation. But in doing so, he had walked straight into the biggest public takedown in modern history. And the nation? The nation was watching. Every single second. Yellow circle, narration tip for YouTube. paused dramatically after, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" on live television. Then tease. Studio microphone. What the judge didn't know was that the cameras weren't just there to broadcast his words, but to expose his secrets. What happened next shocked even the most seasoned journalists. Stay with us. But perhaps the most chilling part of that moment wasn't the words spoken, but the silence that followed. Judge Benson, with his chin held high, looked like a man on a mission. He believed this was his time to shine, to flip the script, to frame the president as a hypocrite and emerge as a champion of justice. Cameras stayed locked on his face, catching every smug glance, every self-satisfied smirk. What the public didn't know, at least not yet, was that Benson had been feeling the heat behind closed doors. Whispers about his involvement in shady land deals, mysterious acquittals, and frequent meetings with corporate lobbyists had been growing louder. Multiple journalists had tried to investigate, but their stories were mysteriously buried or discredited. It was almost like someone was protecting him. That someone, he believed, was himself. Benson thought he was untouchable, and that belief made him arrogant. Arrogant enough to challenge the most powerful man in the country, with no backup, no proof, and no escape plan. He didn't realize that every camera lens aimed at him wasn't just capturing a dramatic accusation. It was recording the final seconds of his illusion of power. This wasn't just a press conference anymore. It was a countdown to justice. Behind the judge's grandstanding, behind the dramatic accusations and defiant glare, something deeper was unraveling, and it all came down to ego. Judge Harold Benson wasn't just speaking out of justice. He was speaking out of fear. In the weeks leading up to this press conference, quiet investigations had started to reach dangerously close to his chambers. Files he thought were sealed were being quietly reopened. Anonymous tips had begun circulating. His inner circle, once loyal and silent, had grown nervous. Some had even started distancing themselves. He knew the president's anti-corruption campaign had teeth. Unlike past administrations that barked loudly but bit softly, this one had already removed 2 cabinet ministers and a regional governor. The judge figured he was next, so he made a choice. A risky one. Attack first, discredit the system, and, if possible, smear the president. If he could shift public perception, even for a moment, maybe the heat would move elsewhere. Maybe he could delay the inevitable. And for a few seconds, it looked like his gamble might work. Social media feeds exploded. Commentators began speculating. The president was being challenged live. Could this really be the beginning of a massive scandal? But what Benson failed to understand was this.